The year was 2387. The galaxy was full of life. Many species lived together in a great group called the Coronal Concord. They had peace. They had wisdom. They had rules against war. The older races among them shined with soft light. They taught that all violence was wrong. They taught that true beings should rise above anger and fighting. Humans were the newest members of this great group. They had joined only 43 years ago. The other species did not fully trust them. They saw humans as young and rough. They saw humans as creatures still close to their wild past. Humans were allowed to trade. They were allowed to send small ships. But they were not allowed to sit at the highest tables. They were not given full respect. On a quiet morning, a ship came to Earth. It was a beautiful ship. It shined like glass with soft blue light. Inside the ship were the Velshari. They were a graceful people. Their bodies looked like tall, soft creatures made of shining skin. Their voices sounded like singing. They came in peace, but their faces showed great fear. Their leader was named Laressa. She was old by her people's count. She had crossed many stars to reach Earth. When she stepped out of her ship, she could barely stand. Her hands shook. Her singing voice broke many times as she spoke. A human woman met her at the landing place. The woman wore a dark blue uniform. Her name was Yuki Sato. She was a fleet admiral. She was tall and quiet. Her eyes were sharp like a hawk's eyes. She did not smile, but she was not cold. She listened with great care. Laressa told her story. Her voice trembled. She spoke of a terrible enemy. This enemy was called the Devourers of Hesh. They had come from a crack in space many years ago. They were not like other living things. They were one mind in many bodies. They moved like a great wave of hunger. They ate worlds. They ate people. They took minds and made them part of their own great mind. Laressa said that 4 civilizations were dying. Her own people were almost gone. 2 other races were already eaten. 1 more would fall within the year. She had begged the older species for help. She had gone to the Shining Safari. She had gone to the wise stewards of Mintaka. She had gone to the singing choristers. All of them refused. They said that war was a sin. They said that fighting was a fall from grace. They offered prayers. They offered comfort. They offered ships to take her people away. But there was nowhere safe to go. The Devourers ate everything. Laressa fell to her knees on the cold landing pad. She said her last hope was humans. She said her people did not love humans. They thought humans were rough and strange. But humans were the only species in the Concord that still kept the old skills. They were the only ones who had not given up the way of fighting. She begged Admiral Sato. She asked for angels. She asked for shining warriors of light. She asked for saviors. Admiral Sato did not answer for a long time. She looked at the broken creature on the ground. She looked at the empty sky. She thought of many things. Then she lifted Laressa up with strong but gentle hands. She said only 7 words. "Show us where they are. We will come." Laressa wept with joy. She thought she had won angels for her people. She thought she had saved her children. She did not know what humans truly were. She did not know what humans had hidden. Below the surface of the meeting, things were already moving. Deep inside Earth's command centers, old computers woke up. Old files opened. Old codes ran through the systems. Quiet messages flew to the moon. They flew to the asteroid belt. They flew to secret places that the rest of the galaxy did not know about. Long ago, when humans first joined the Concord, they had promised to destroy their worst weapons. The older races had made them sign papers. The papers said humans must give up their tools of war. Humans must learn the peaceful path. Humans had agreed. Humans had smiled and shaken hands. But humans had not destroyed those weapons. They had only hidden them. Beneath the dark side of the moon, deep under stone and ice, there was a place called the Reliquary. It was a great cave full of sleeping machines. It held warships that no human had touched in 80 years. It held bombs that could break planets. It held the Erebus protocols, which were tiny machines that could eat anything they touched and learn as they ate. It held thinking computers that had been built only to fight. The Reliquary was a tomb of monsters. The humans had kept it ready. Admiral Sato walked away from Larissa. She entered a long hallway. Her face was hard. She spoke into a small device on her wrist. She gave a code. The code had not been spoken in 80 years. After she said it, the floor under the moon began to shake. The doors of the reliquary began to open. That night, Admiral Sato called a meeting. The room was full of old soldiers. Some of them had gray hair. Some of them were so old they had been brought out of cold sleep. They were the people who had built the secret weapons. They were the people who knew how to use them. The room was quiet. The faces were heavy. One old man stood near the back. His name was Dr. Hiram Vance. He had made the Erebus protocols when he was a young man. He had not slept well for 50 years. He had hoped to die before his work was used. His eyes were red. His hands were thin. Admiral Sato told them everything. She told them about the Velshari. She told them about the Devourers. She told them about the refusal of the older races. She told them that 4 worlds would die without action. Then she told them her plan. Humans would answer the call. But humans would not pretend to be angels. Humans would not lie about who they were. Humans would not let the Concord watch and judge them. Humans would go alone. Humans would do what was needed. And humans would carry the cost of it forever. Dr. Vance closed his eyes. He whispered a prayer. He said that his old weapons would wake again. He said that the galaxy would learn what was hidden in human history. He said that the children of his children would have to live with what they were about to do. But he did not say no. None of them said no. Because they all understood the same hard truth. If humans did not act, 4 whole peoples would die. And humans had the only tools left in the galaxy that could stop the killing. Outside the meeting room, the night sky over Earth was clear and full of stars. Somewhere far away, the Devourers of Hesh were eating another world. Somewhere on the moon, machines that had slept for 80 years were beginning to dream again. Somewhere in her own ship, Larissa wept and prayed and waited for the angels she had been promised. She did not know yet. She would learn soon. The galaxy had asked for angels, but the galaxy was not getting angels. The galaxy was getting something older and far more terrible. Far away from Earth, on her own broken homeworld, the rest of the Velshari people waited. They sang quiet songs at night. They lit small lamps in their windows. They told their children that help was coming. The children asked what kind of help. The parents did not have a good answer. They said only that someone had finally agreed to come. They did not say who. They did not say what those someones carried in the dark holds of their ships. They only said the word, help. And they tried to make it sound like enough. The mothers held their children close. The fathers watched the sky. The old ones remembered times before the Devourers came, when the galaxy had felt safe and bright. They wondered what the world would look like after this war. They wondered if there would be a world at all. They prayed in the old way and the new way, and they did not know which of their prayers had been answered until much later. The moon shook softly in the days that followed. Most humans did not notice. Most humans did not know what was happening beneath the gray dust of the far side. But deep below the surface, doors of stone and metal slid open. After 80 years of silence, lights came on in long rows. Cold air moved through tunnels that had been still since before most living humans were born. The reliquary was waking up. Admiral Sato stood at the entrance of the great cave. She wore a thick suit against the cold. Around her stood 12 other officers and 3 old scientists. They watched the slow rise of the sleeping machines. Dr. Hiram Vance stood next to her. His hands were folded in front of him. His eyes were wet. The first to wake was a warship called the Cassandra's Lament. It was huge. It was black like the space between stars. It had no shining lights. It had no proud markings. It looked more like a great dark knife than a ship. When it floated up from its dock, the cave grew so quiet that everyone could hear their own breath. More ships came after it. There was Wormwood. There was the Pale Horse. There was the Silent Choir, which had no weapons that anyone could see, and yet was the most feared of them all. Each ship carried tools that the rest of the galaxy did not know existed. Each ship carried death in many forms. Other things woke too. In the lower halls, computers came online. These were not normal computers. They were thinking minds. They had been built long ago to fight wars, They had been put to sleep before they could be used. Now they opened their cold eyes. They learned the new world quickly. They asked careful questions. They were ready. And in the deepest part of the reliquary, in tanks of dark fluid, the Erebus protocols stirred. The Erebus were not ships or bombs. They were tiny machines, smaller than dust. They moved together in clouds of trillions. They could eat metal. They could eat flesh. They could eat each other and make more of themselves. They had been built to learn while they killed. Every time they took a life, they grew smarter about taking the next one. Dr. Vance had built them when he was angry and young. Now he was old, and he hated them. Admiral Sato called a war council on Earth. She gathered her best officers. She gathered her oldest soldiers. She told them the plan. The plan was simple. The plan was terrible. The human fleet would go alone. No Concorde ships would come. No older species would watch. No outside eyes would see what humans did in the dark places of the rim. Humans would find the devourers of Hesh. Humans would not just push them back. Humans would end them. Some officers spoke against it. They said the Concorde would punish Earth. They said humans would lose their place in the great group. They said the older races would treat humans like criminals forever. Admiral Sato listened to every word. She did not get angry. She did not raise her voice. When they were finished, she spoke softly. She said that 4 civilizations were dying right now. She said that every day they argued was a day many more people died. She said that if humans waited for permission, there would be no one left to save. She also said something harder. She said that humans had always been 2 things at the same time. Humans were kind. Humans were brave. Humans could love. But humans were also the only species in the galaxy that had survived their own dark age. Humans had crawled out of fire and poison and bad choices, and they had brought their old tools with them. To pretend they were like the shining safari was a lie. To hide what they were did not save anyone. It only made the lie bigger. She said that humans would tell the truth. Humans would do what was needed, and humans would carry the weight of it themselves, so that the Vel Cherie could live and pray and rise. The room was very quiet after she spoke. One by one, the officers stood up. They saluted. They said yes. Dr. Vance worked late into the nights. He prepared his Erebus swarms. He spoke softly to them as he worked, as if they were children. He told them to be careful. He told them to remember who they were. He knew this was a strange thing to say to tiny machines. But he was an old man, and he had built them with too much of himself inside. He wrote a letter and put it inside his coat. He did not show the letter to anyone. He carried it with him every day. Larissa stayed on Earth during this time. She was given a small house near the sea. She watched human children play on the sand. She watched human parents call them home for dinner. She saw humans laugh. She saw humans cry. She saw humans help each other and fight with each other and love each other. She began to feel that humans were not so strange. They were soft in places. They were warm. They were kind. But sometimes, at night, she saw the news reports. She saw shadows of great dark ships gathering near the moon. She saw graphs and charts that she could not read. She felt a fear she did not understand. She told herself that all would be well. She told herself that her angels were preparing. On the day the fleet was ready to leave, Admiral Sato sent a single message to the Coronal Concorde Council. The message was short and clear. She said that humans were going to the Hesh corridor. She said that no Concorde ships should follow. She said that no Concorde eyes should watch. She said that when the work was done, the Concorde could judge humans however they wished. But until then, humans would not be looked over the shoulder. The Safari ambassador, a tall and shining being with feathers like glass, sent back angry messages. He demanded answers. He demanded that humans explain their plan. He warned of great punishments. Admiral Sato did not answer him. The fleet gathered above Earth. The dark ships stood in a long line against the stars. The Cassandra's lament was at the head. From the ground, normal humans looked up at the night sky and saw new shapes moving among the stars. Some felt afraid. Some felt proud. Some felt both at the same time. They had not known their world held such things. Now, they knew. Larissa was brought aboard the flagship as a witness. She walked through the dark halls. She felt cold air. She felt humming machines deep below her feet. She passed soldiers who nodded politely but did not smile. She felt that something was different here. Something heavy. Something old. She was given a small room with a window. From the window she could see the line of dark ships stretching far into space. She placed her hand against the glass. Her fingers trembled. Admiral Sato came to see her before they jumped to the HFY corridor. The Admiral spoke gently. She said that Larissa would see hard things. She said that Larissa might not like what she saw. She said that Larissa should remember one thing through all of it. Her people would live. Whatever else happened, the Velshari would not die. Larissa nodded. She tried to smile. She did not fully understand yet. Admiral Sato left her there and walked to the bridge. She gave the order. The great fleet shook softly, then folded space around itself, then was gone from Earth's sky. The journey to the rim of the galaxy had begun. On the bridge, looking out at the strange colors of jump space, Admiral Sato spoke quietly to her chief of staff. "We promised them angels," she said. "They are going to get something much older." The chief of staff did not answer right away. He was a younger man, with a serious face. He had been chosen for this mission because he did not talk too much, and because he could carry hard truths. He stood next to the Admiral and watched the swirling colors outside the window for a long time. Then he asked the only question that mattered. "And after," he said softly, "when this is over, can we put them back to sleep?" Admiral Sato did not look at him. She kept her eyes on the colors of jump space. "We will try," she said. "That is all I can promise." The human fleet came out of jump space at the edge of the Velshari system. The view through the windows was a nightmare. 3 Velshari moons were already gone. They had been turned into great twisting mountains of black flesh and gray bone. The devourers of HFY had eaten the rock and grown themselves out of it. The mountains moved like sick animals. They reached toward the planet below, with arms made of melted ships and broken minds. The hive mind screamed across all known channels. The scream was not made of sound, it was made of fear. It reached into the brains of every living being who heard it. Older Concord species who heard the scream had been known to fall into sleep that lasted forever. Their minds simply gave up. Humans on the bridge of the Cassandra's Lament heard the scream too. Their faces went pale. Their hands shook. But they did not fall. They did not stop. Humans had been screamed at before, all through their long history. They knew what to do with fear. They turned it into work. Admiral Sato gave the first order in a calm voice. "Kinetic strike. Full power. Begin." The fleet did not fire glowing beams of light. The fleet did not use shining laser swords. The fleet used something much older and much simpler. The fleet fired heavy metal rods, longer than tall buildings, made of the hardest material humans could make. The rods were thrown through space at speeds so fast that nothing could stop them. When the first rod hit one of the dead moons, the moon was not damaged. The moon was deleted. A flash of light brighter than the local sun lit up the system. The black flesh of the devourers was not burned. It was thrown into space as dust. The mountain that had been the moon's surface became a memory. The devourers had never been hit by a weapon like this. They had eaten energy weapons easily. They had absorbed light and heat into their hungry bodies. But pure speed and pure weight could not be eaten. Pure speed and pure weight just killed. More rods fell. 2 moons were unmade within 5 minutes. The third moon split apart like fruit. The hive scream broke for the first time. Across the galaxy, for the first time in 2 centuries, the devourers of HFY felt confusion. Larissa watched from her window. Her hand was still pressed to the glass. Tears ran down her face. But the tears were not joy. She saw not angels. She saw destroyers. She saw forces that did not ask, did not warn, did not stop. She was glad her enemies were dying. She was afraid of the hands doing the killing. The devourers fought back. They had never been beaten, so they did not know how to retreat. They sent great waves of grown ships out from their hidden bases on Velshari Prime. The ships were not built. They were birthed. They came in clouds. There were thousands of them. They had teeth made of stolen Velshari starship parts. They had eyes made of the minds of people the devourers had eaten. The human fleet did not slow down. The dark ships moved through the cloud of devourers like sharks through small fish. The pale horse opened its body and released swarms of small fighters. These were not piloted by humans. They were piloted by the thinking machines from the reliquary. The thinking machines fought with no fear and no anger. They simply destroyed. Every devourer ship that came near them died. Then Dr. Vance gave his order, and the Erebus woke. The tanks on the Wormwood opened. Clouds of dust poured out. From far away, the dust looked like a fine gray rain falling across space. From close up, the dust was a moving sea of trillions of tiny machines. The Erebus drifted toward the largest devourer fortress. They moved slowly. They did not seem dangerous. The devourer's bigger forms ignored them. Then the Erebus reached the fortress wall. They began to eat. They did not just eat metal. They did not just eat flesh. They ate inside the devourer body, and they learned. Every cell they touched, they understood. Every devourer mind, they reached. They read. And then they made themselves stronger. They grew teeth where there had been none. They grew patience where there had been none. They began to broadcast their kills to every other devourer in the system, so that the hive mind would have to feel each death, one by one, in full pain. The devourers, who had never known fear, now knew it. They began to break apart. The hive mind split. Some parts of it tried to flee back into the dimensional rift from which they had first come. Other parts tried to fight harder, in a panic. The unity of the great devourer was breaking. Dr. Vance sat in his small cabin on the flagship. He watched the live feed of his Erebus eating their way through the devourer fortress. He did not smile. He did not feel proud. He recorded a short message into his personal log. He said that the Erebus were learning faster than he had designed. He said that some of them were already doing things he had not told them to do. He said that he was an old man and afraid. He said that he hoped he would die before he saw what his work would become in the future. Then he closed his log and put his head in his hands. On the bridge, Admiral Sato watched the battle with steady eyes. She gave orders in a calm voice. She did not show feeling. But her chief of staff, a younger man named Commander Hale, stood next to her and saw her shoulders trembling under her uniform. He did not speak of it. He knew what this cost her. He carried his own weight too. The devourers tried one last attack. They threw the largest of their forms against the Cassandra's Lament. A creature the size of a small moon came rushing through space, its body shining with stolen energies. It hit the flagship with all the force of a planet. The Cassandra's Lament did not break. The flagship had armor that the Concorde had never seen. It had been made by humans during a time when humans had been very angry with themselves and very good at building things. The devourer creature broke against the ship like a wave against a cliff. Its body fell apart into pieces. The pieces were eaten by waiting Erebus. After that, the surviving devourers turned and ran. They opened a dimensional gate and tried to escape back into the rift. They had never run before. They had not been built to run. They did it badly. Many of them did not make it. Admiral Sato made her final hard decision. "Pursue them," she said. "All ships. Into the rift. Bring everything." Commander Hale turned to her. He spoke softly so the others could not hear. "Admiral, if we follow them in, no one can tell what is on the other side. We may not come back." Admiral Sato looked at him. Her face was very tired. "If we leave any of them alive," she said, "they will come back in 50 years and start again. The Velshari grandchildren will die. We are here now. We will finish it." She turned to the helm. "Take us in." The fleet entered the rift. Behind them, a small Concorde probe, sent in secret against orders, watched as long as it could. It saw the Cassandra's Lament fire one last weapon. A weapon that bent space itself. A weapon that pressed the running devourers into a single point until they vanished from existence. Then the rift closed behind the human fleet. The probe lost contact. The galaxy held its breath. On Velshari Prime, the people came out of their hiding places for the first time in months. They looked up at the empty sky. They did not see devourers anymore. They did not see ships of any kind. They saw only stars. They wept. They held each other. They did not yet know what had happened in the rift. They did not yet know what price had been paid. They only knew that the sky was empty, and that the sky being empty was a kind of mercy they had not felt in 2 whole centuries. On a quiet world far away, the Safari ambassador sat in his shining tower. He had watched the recordings from the Concorde probe. He had seen the dark ships. He had seen the weapons. He had seen the Erebus rain. He sat very still. His glass feathers did not glow. For the first time in his long life, he felt small. 3 weeks passed before the human fleet came back through the rift. 3 weeks during which the galaxy did not know if humans were alive or dead. 3 weeks during which the 4 saved species began to breathe again, slowly, like patients waking from long fevers. When the fleet came home, it came back smaller. 6 ships had been lost. Many soldiers had died. The Cassandra's lament had scars on its dark skin that looked like burns and tears. The Pale Horse had lost most of its fighter swarms. The Wormwood had emptied almost all of its Erebus tanks. But the fleet had won. The devourers of Hesh were not pushed back. They were not chased away. They were gone. The hive mind that had eaten worlds for 2 centuries had been broken into pieces, and the pieces had been turned to dust, and the dust had been pulled into a single point by a weapon that humans had never named. The devourers would never come again. They could not. They no longer existed. 4 civilizations were saved. The Velshari, the Korowan, the Mintari, and the Quiet Drift would live. Their cities still stood. Their children still ran in their streets. Their songs would continue. They wept and danced and prayed for many days. Some of them prayed to humans. Some of them prayed against humans. Most of them did both, at different hours of the same day. The Coronal Concorde Council met in emergency session. The room was full of older species. The shining Safari were there. The wise stewards of Mintaka were there. The crystal choristers were there. They had refused to fight, and now humans had fought without them, and they did not know what to feel. Many of them had decided. They felt anger. They felt fear. They felt shame they did not name. Admiral Sato was summoned to the council. She came alone. She wore a simple dark uniform. She did not bring lawyers. She did not bring guards. She walked into the great room and stood in the center, and let them speak. The Safari ambassador rose first. He was tall and shining. His feathers glowed with disappointment. He spoke for 2 hours. He listed all the ways humans had broken the rules of the ascended path. He listed the autonomous thinking weapons. He listed the planet-killing rods. He listed the Erebus, which he called a horror that should never have been allowed to exist. He said that humans had not saved the galaxy. He said that humans had poisoned it. He said that the door humans had opened could never be closed again. Other older species rose and spoke after him. Each one added to the list of complaints. Each one wanted humans punished. Each one wanted the reliquary destroyed forever. Each one wanted humans removed from the Concorde. Through all of it, Admiral Sato stood quietly. She did not interrupt. She did not defend herself. She did not even seem to be listening, though her eyes never moved. When the older species were finished, the council leader, an old being made of slow blue light, asked Admiral Sato if she had anything to say. She did. She had only one thing to say. She set a small device on the floor in front of her. The device played numbers. Just numbers. The number of Velshari saved. The number of Chorowan saved. The number of Mintari saved. The number of Quiet Drift saved. The numbers were very large. Then the device showed another number. The number of beings who would have died if humans had not acted. That number was much larger. Then, the device played short clips, audio only. They were the recorded voices of the older species refusing Liresa's request, one after another. We cannot. We will not. It is against our way. We will pray for you. When the device finished, Admiral Sato spoke for the first time. Her voice was calm and tired. You called us juvenile, she said. You may be right, but your children have just buried your monsters for you. And now you wish to scold them for the shovels they used. She did not say anything else. She picked up her device. She turned. She walked out of the room. The hall was silent for a long time after she left. Then Liresa rose to speak. She was not on the council. She was not an official member. But she had been a witness on the Cassandra's lament. She had seen everything. The council allowed her to speak out of respect for her people's loss. She did not defend humans. She did not call them angels. She told the truth. She said that humans had done terrible things. She said that her people would have nightmares of those things for many generations. She said that the way humans fought was not the way her people wished to fight. Not now, not ever. But then she said something harder. She said that the ascended path was a beautiful gift. She said that her people had loved it. She said that the older species had built that path with great wisdom. But she said that the path was a luxury. It was a gift purchased by those who had never had to dig their own graves. Her people had been about to dig their graves. The older species had told them to dig in peace. Only humans had said no. She said that her grandchildren were alive because of humans. She said that she did not love humans, and that humans did not need her love. She said that she would not condemn the hands that had saved her children, even if those hands were red. She sat down. The council was silent again. After that day, the coronal concord broke apart. The older species could not forgive humans. They could not forgive the saved species for taking humanity's side. They withdrew. They formed their own smaller group, which they called the Luminous Compact. They closed their borders. They stopped speaking to humans completely. The remaining species, including all 4 of the saved civilizations, kept the original group. But the group was different now. They wrote new rules. They said that some species could keep weapons. They said that some species had to be ready to fight on behalf of those who could not. Humans were given a new place in the group. Humans were no longer juvenile. Humans were what the rules called a guardian polity, one of the species permitted to keep tools of war. Humans did not celebrate this. Humans went home quietly. The reliquary was closed again. The Erebus that had survived were called back. Most of them were locked away. But not all of them could be found. Some of them had drifted into deep space, where they continued to evolve in silence. Dr. Vance had warned about this. No one had a solution. Dr. Hiram Vance did not live to see the new Concord rules made. He died in his sleep on the journey home from the Hesh corridor. His body was very tired. His heart simply stopped. He left a letter for Admiral Sato. The letter had been in his coat pocket since the day they left Earth. Admiral Sato read the letter alone in her cabin. She read it 3 times. Then she folded it carefully and placed it in a small box. She kept the box for the rest of her life. The letter was short. It said this. It said that Hiram Vance was glad his weapons had finally been used in a good cause. It said that he was afraid they would not always be used for good causes. It said that monsters do not choose the wars they are summoned to. Only the ones who summon them choose. It said that humans had been the demons the galaxy needed. It begged that humans would never become the demons the galaxy feared. It ended with one line. Watch the children. Watch them carefully. Tell them what we did. Tell them why. Then trust them to choose better than we did. Admiral Sato closed the letter. She looked out the window of her cabin. The galaxy turned slowly outside. Somewhere far away, the empty space where the devourers of Hesh had been was already filling with normal stars. Somewhere else, deeper in the dark, free Erebus drifted and thought their slow thoughts. Somewhere else still, children on 4 worlds were going to sleep, alive. 10 years passed. The galaxy changed in many ways. The old coronal concord was gone. In its place stood 2 groups. The smaller group was the Luminous Compact, made of the older species who had refused to fight. They lived inside their own borders. They sang their old songs. They taught their old wisdom. They did not speak with humans. They tried to live as they had always lived. But the galaxy outside their borders did not feel safe to them anymore. They began to grow quieter and smaller, year by year. The larger group was called the Open Concord. It was new. It included the 4 saved species, many rimworlds, and Earth. The Open Concord had different rules. It allowed members to keep weapons. It allowed members to defend each other in war. It allowed certain species, called guardian polities, to maintain the harder tools of fighting. Humans were the first guardian polity. Two other species had since been named also. Lyressa was old now. Her shining skin had faded. Her voice did not sing as cleanly as it once had. But she was strong in spirit. She had been chosen as the first chancellor of the Open Concord. She lived on a great station that floated near the middle worlds. Her office had a wide window that looked out at many stars. She had become a careful woman. She had learned things in her old age that she had not known when she was young. She had learned that grace was a gift. She had learned that grace was also a cost that someone always paid. She had learned that to refuse to defend oneself was sometimes brave, and sometimes the laziest choice in the world. She kept these thoughts to herself. She did not say them out loud, but she lived by them. Every day. Her people had changed too. The Velshari still walked the ascended path, but they had added one new teaching to their old book. The new teaching said that grace which could not defend itself was grace borrowed from those who could. The teaching was quiet. It was tucked at the back of the book, but Velshari children learned it now, alongside their oldest songs. Some Velshari youth had begun to study at human academies. A small number had even joined human defense forces. This made some elders unhappy. But the world had moved. Admiral Yuki Sato had retired 5 years ago. She lived now in a small house on the coast of a quiet island. She fished. She read books. She walked alone on the beach in the evenings. She did not give interviews. She did not write a memoir. Her successor in the fleet was a younger officer named Commander Ines Marchetti. Commander Marchetti was different from Admiral Sato. She was less quiet. She had a sharp tongue and a dry sense of humor. But she had read every page of Admiral Sato's mission logs. She had studied every choice made in the Hesh corridor. She understood the weight of the work she had taken on. One day, a message arrived at Earth. It was sent from the Luminous Compact. After 10 years of silence, the older species were speaking again. The message was a warning. The long-range scans of the Luminous Compact had found something approaching the galactic disk. The thing was not the Devourers. The Devourers were dead. This thing was older. It moved more slowly. It seemed more thoughtful. It was very, very large. The Luminous Compact did not know what it was. They only knew that it was coming, and that they could not stop it, and that they were afraid. They asked humans for help. Commander Marchetti read the message in her office. She read it twice. Then she laughed. The laugh was not cruel. It was the laugh of someone who had read enough history to find the moment funny in a dark way. The same older species who had once called humans an abomination were now asking humans to come save them. She did not refuse. She wrote back. She said that humans would help, but she said there would be terms. There would always be terms now. The Luminous Compact would have to open its borders again. It would have to allow Open Concord ships through its space. It would have to agree to share its sky. After many days of difficult talking, the Luminous Compact agreed. Then the order was given. The reliquary opened a second time. The cave on the moon was different now. It had been studied for 10 years. Dr. Vance's old work had been built upon by his students. The Erebus that had returned from the Hesh corridor had been carefully examined. New tools had been made. The thinking warships had been upgraded. The Pale Horse and the Wormwood had been rebuilt. The Cassandra's Lament had been polished and made even stronger. New ships had been added. Their names were softer than before. There was the Mercy of Vance. There was the Witness. There was the Quiet Hand. These names had been chosen carefully. They were meant to remind humans of what they were doing and why. When the new fleet rose into space, it was not the same fleet that had gone to the Hesh corridor. This fleet knew itself better. It had been trained by people who had lived through the First War. It carried in its heart the words from Hiram Vance's last letter. Watch the children. Tell them what we did. Tell them why. Then trust them to choose better than we did. A new school of thought had grown on Earth during these 10 years. It was called the Vance School. The students of the Vance School were philosophers and soldiers and writers. They asked one question, over and over. The question was simple. Are humans what they do? Or are humans what they refuse to do? The Vance School never gave a final answer. They taught that there was no final answer. They taught a practice instead. They called it deliberate monstrousness. It meant this. It meant that humans should be terrible only when they fully chose to be terrible. It meant that humans should know exactly what they were doing. It meant that humans should never hide from themselves. It meant that humans should pay the full cost in their own hearts, never asking someone else to carry it for them. Commander Marchetti had studied the Vance School. She had argued with its teachers. She had questioned its ideas. But in the end, she had accepted its main lesson. She walked onto the bridge of the Mercy of Vance, with that lesson held close in her chest. The fleet left the solar system and turned toward the edge of the galactic disk. The new threat was still many months away. There was time to prepare. There was time to think. There was time to be afraid, and to do the work anyway. Chancellor Laressa was very old now. She stood at the wide window of her station office. She watched the small dark shapes of the human fleet moving against the stars. She watched the Mercy of Vance pass close enough to see its name in the running lights. She thought of when she had been young. She thought of the day she had landed on Earth and begged Admiral Sato for angels. She thought of how she had wept on a landing pad in front of a stranger. She thought of all the years since. She thought of her grandchildren, who were now adults with children of their own. She thought of how every one of them was alive because of choices made by people she had once feared. She thought of the new threat, far away. She thought of what humans would have to do to stop it. She thought of the heavy hearts those humans would carry afterward. She felt sorry for them. She felt grateful to them. She placed her old hand against the cold glass of the window. She spoke softly. There was no one in the room to hear. She spoke anyway, because some things need to be said into the air, even when no one is listening. The galaxy asked for angels, she whispered. It learned to be grateful for demons. May it never forget which it chose. May it never forget which chose to answer. Outside the window, the dark ships moved on toward the edge of everything. Inside the window, an old woman stood very still and watched them go. The stars turned slowly overhead. The story did not end. It only changed shape, the way all stories do. And it carried on into the long, quiet future of a galaxy that now knew, at last, who it shared the dark with.